Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the new episode of the basketball segment on the Pump Take Sports Show. Today, me and Marco are going to be talking about a topic that's been pretty hot in the NBA over the past week or so, I'd say, and that is the issue with NBA officiating. Now, I'm sure those of you who are just fans of the NBA and follow NBA news have seen the issues with specifically with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert sounding off on the officials in the media about just perceived discrepancies between who gets calls, who doesn't, as well as the merits on which those calls are kind of like addressed. So, Marco, is there anything that you wanted to start with talking about the problems with NBA reffing?
For sure, Kale. So I think it needs to be said that NBA officiating, as well as just in sports, officiating is difficult. Humans make mistakes, and that's just kind of how it is. And there's kind of nothing that you can do to completely eliminate those mistakes, right? Even though these guys are trained like NBA officials and all other sport referees, right? They're trained. They spend their whole lives trying to do this and be good at it and be as unbiased as possible. It's just not possible, really, to be a machine, right? And we've tried to eliminate these we've done small steps as technology has advanced, replays and these crazy close-up angles and reviewing things, rewinding, pausing, zooming in, literally all this stuff. But as the game progresses as well, it seems like, I don't know, for me personally, as an NBA fan, it just seems like reffing isn't getting better. And it's like there's just issues that keep coming up and that I think need to be addressed. And yeah, for me, I guess the first issue is, why don't we bring up the jumping in to players? I think that's an issue that personally I think needs to be brought up. You have guys like anyone really in the NBA, Curry, Doncic, whoever, doing this thing where they're stepping back or whatever and jumping in and creating contact when that isn't their natural shot form. And I don't know, it just seems to me like it's taking away from the legitimacy of the game.
Yeah. And going back to the Sixers Jazz game, one of the plays that was an issue in that game, it was in overtime, and Donovan Mitchell drove in from the perimeter. Ben Simmons was guarding him, I believe. Mm-hmm. And Donovan Mitchell gets into the paint. And it would, like you were saying earlier, it would be nice if we had a video clip to show this. But essentially what happens is that Donovan Mitchell gets into the paint, and he drops his shoulder on Ben Simmons. He has his arm out on him. Ben is vertical in the paint guarding him. And Donovan Mitchell got called for an offensive foul. And I agree with that call, because that is by the book how it should be. If a guy is vertical and you go into his space, that should be an offensive foul. And that's the same thing with when a guy jumps into a player to create contact. But there needs to be consistency in which one is going to be called an offensive foul and what isn't. Because the way that I see it is Donovan Mitchell on that play, and I think this is a lot of the reason why, just as a competitive athlete, his emotions built up to when he eventually got ejected. You don't know what you can do and what you can't to get a competitive advantage. Because on one play, you'll see Jimmy Butler or Luka Doncic take a 3-point shot and jump into their defender and go to the line for 3 shots, even though they weren't going to hit a contested shot anyways. But then when Donovan Mitchell does what is essentially the exact same thing and gets called for an offensive foul. So I don't understand where's the line? Where's
exactly. As an NBA player, you want to know what you can and can't do.
Yeah, you have to know.
You have to know, exactly. And
that's what the problem with all of this is that I don't hold it against guys like Harden necessarily, who their game is based around just creating contact, because they're playing within the rules, and everybody else is also doing it. They're just better at it. But
exactly,
if that is perceived as a problem, it needs to be taken out in the rules.
100% agree, dude. I think that's a very good point. That is the main issue. It's I guess as a fan, you want to be able to watch the best basketball possible, and you want the officials to just be there to facilitate the game and not be in the game. Nothing more. Right. And it sometimes feels like the officials are trying to be in the game, like they're they got their whistle in their mouth and they're ready to blow it as soon as they possibly can, right? But like, that's not what we want as NBA fans and as NBA players.
But I do want that if it's by the book.
Exactly. But all you want as an NBA player is to just do what you can do. Like, you want to play within the rules and you want to stretch it to the absolute line without stepping over that line. But if you don't know where that line is, if on one play you jump into a player and you get a call, and then on the next play you go for a layup, kind of go into the player and then get a call against you, it's like, where is the consistency there?
Yeah, what's the difference?
Exactly. What's the difference? And I think that's why Donnavan Mitchel was mad, and I think that's why Rudy Gobert's mad, and I think that's why so many other players are mad about the officiating. Like, another example of this inconsistency that Montrezl Harrell was bringing up is when he got a tech and then I think got ejected after saying "and one." I think that's pretty light. But if every single time a player yelled "and one," they were ejected, then those are the rules. And if those rules were clearly stated at the beginning of the season, then so be it. Personally, as a fan, I think it's cool if a player wants to yell "and one." Who cares? But as a player, Montrezl Harrell was saying this. Hey, man, I've said way worse stuff. Of course you have. Like, you hear players swear and they don't get ejected.
And that goes back to what you were saying at the beginning. It's that this is a problem with, like, maybe not a problem, but just it is a problem. But it's a reality of having just, like, humans making rules and deciding things in sports. Because what happened with Harrell is that for some reason that ref felt like their ego was offended by Harrell yelling "and one," because they felt that, like, either he raised his voice or he somehow acted in a disrespectful way.
Well, he's saying to the ref, like, you need to call this, like, "and one." That's how the ref interprets it.
Yeah.
Right. But as a basketball player, you're just like hype. Like, every time you get an "and one," like, we played basketball. I played basketball in high school. If you get hacked while you're making a shot, it feels lit because you got hacked and you still made the shot.
Yeah, you kind of just literally say "and one."
"And one."
Yeah, but like, it's the exact same thing. Like what happened with Devin Booker earlier this week, where he did a completely, like, normal thing. He slammed the ball down, like, just kind of hard, but it wasn't in an aggressive way. But because the ref perceived it like that, and it went against their ego, they eject him from the game. Like, come on, that's a joke.
Yeah. Did he pass it to the ref? Like, he threw it to the ref and the ref caught it and it was hard? Or what did he do? He just slammed it on the ground?
He took two hands and he slammed the ball down.
Okay.
Like, it was like nothing. It was the most ridiculous thing that I've ever seen. And I understand being an NBA official is hard. It's a fast game, and getting the right call every time just isn't going to happen. And that's fine. That's not what I have a problem with. I have a problem with, one, when egos start getting involved, like with the case of Harrell and Booker, where a ref feels that it is that they have a right to impact the result of a game because they feel that a player disrespected them or hurt their feelings. I think that that's a load of bullshit.
I agree. And dude, me personally, in my own experience with sports, I've been on both sides. I was a soccer referee as well as I played soccer and basketball and stuff. But when I was a referee, I was just reffing house league, so it wasn't that deep. But you try to be as unbiased as possible. But if one coach is yelling from the sideline, "Hey, fuck you, buddy, you don't know how to ref, like, what was that call?" And then the other coach is just sitting there quietly cheering on his players, whatever. It's just within you. It's almost impossible. And I know that I wasn't trained as rigorously as these, referees that are making their living doing this job, but it's like, it's impossible as a human to not feel biased. But there are times when, like, your feelings can get too far ahead of you. Like, another example for me when I was on the other side is I was playing in a soccer game and I got tackled and I was like, "What the heck? That was a foul." And the ref was like, I already called it." And I was like, "Okay, sorry, no problem," right? Because I'm like, I'm expressing myself. I'm angry. I just got hacked, right?
Yeah.
So I picked up the ball and threw it to the ref, and the ref just let it hit him. And then he gave me a red card and ejected me from the game.
Yeah.
Which was ridiculous because I was just passing him the ball. I was throwing him the ball. And for him, I think he looked away and it just hit him. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And he looked at me and he just gave me a red card. And that's where it's like, he was the one that made a mistake from turning away. But yet his personal bias and his personal emotions got in the way. And from him kicking you out of the game, like it's the same thing in basketball. You can't come in, but now there's one less player on the field. And it was a huge turning point in the game, per se, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Another thing that I want to bring up really quickly is that in soccer and in the NHL, there's 4 referees. There's 2 referees and 2 linesmen, as well as in soccer, there's 2 linesmen and 1 referee. And in the NBA, there's only the 2. And personally, I don't see the problem of adding another 2 referees to the NBA to have all points of the floor being viewed. I find a lot of the times, like, because there's so much going on, it's difficult to see everything properly. And adding those other 2 referees to have 2 other views of the floor would definitely be beneficial.
Well, I think there is 3 on an 3, I believe, on an NBA officiating team.
There's 7, but there's only 2 actual referees. So there's only 2 that are like able to make calls on the floor, but then there's like one,
and there's like line
replay people, like and yeah, there's like, but there's actually only 2 people like running around. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just looked it up for the thing.
But it would definitely be beneficial to just have another set of eyes out there, because like
exactly.
Then it eliminates the cause of someone just perceiving something in the wrong way and making a mistake when you just have more opinions on it then, I guess.
Yeah, like personally, I just don't see the harm. And I find a lot of the times the missed calls in the NBA are just because, there was only one person from a specific point of view. And like, obviously as fans, we see replays and we're like, oh, that was so dumb. That was so dumb. That was so dumb. But like, we're watching it in slow-mo. We're watching these replays and it's easy for us to make the call, right? But in the heat of the moment and with only one perspective, it's difficult. So I don't know, why not add more?
Mm-hmm. And I think another issue with it is that missed calls happen, sure, but it feels that like especially in the NBA, that for a professional league, there's no accountability for missed calls. It's like the referees feel that like, well, they don't feel like they operate with impunity. And while human error is just a reality of the job, these people are professionals and they're reffing the most talented league in the world. And I think that should mean that they are the best referees in the world. They should be held to the same standard of professionalism and performance as the players in the league are. And I don't think that happens. I think that, like, sure, calls get reviewed after the game, and sometimes like you just see on like Twitter and stuff like, oh, the NBA has ruled that this call was missed at this point of the game. But that doesn't change anything. That doesn't influence how the refs do their job.
It's kind of just like, we already knew that call was missed.
Yeah,
like, you didn't need to tell us.
And it's easy to say it's easy to see that on the broadcast as well. But I feel like there needs to be some sort of, and I don't know like how viable of a solution this would even be, just some sort of separate association that is responsible for governing referees and like sort of operates as like a quality control entity. That's not just like a referees association that's just unionized and meant to protect referees. That there's a separate entity that is implemented to ensure that like the rules are upheld.
Dude, for sure.
And that's something that I think is missing from the NBA. For
sure. Because right now it's pretty clear that refs are biased. And I feel like refs are almost trained a certain way in the NBA to make certain calls. And a lot of the calls are to make it more interesting for fans to watch. I think maybe a good example of this would be star calls. Who knows why, but it seems like it's a trend between all NBA officials. It's not just, this guy and this girl. It's like every single official in every single game seems to have a more lenient or more aggressive, depending if they're on offense or defense, towards stars. And I'm not talking about just the LeBrons of the world. I'm talking about LeBron, Curry, Harden, Giannis, Luka, whoever. It just seems like they get more calls. And I know Gobert was saying it had to do with the team, But personally, like I know me and you were talking about this before the show, we don't think it's that way.
Yeah,
Like
I think
as a
that's just
Raptors fan, we did feel it was like that way. But then Kawhi came to our team and Kawhi got calls.
But us feeling like that, like that's just the emotion involved in it of seeing it at the time. But in reality, like I understand Donnavan Mitchel. That there are two sides to this where like I don't think that like either of those Jazz guys were completely in the right for how they reacted either. Like like Donnavan Mitchel deserved to get ejected and teed up for what he did, because what he did was outside of the rules. So that was technically the correct way to call it. He freaked out on an official, and then he stormed off of the court and like smacked a Gatorade thing, and then started cursing in the media. It's like obviously like you need to chill out a little bit. But the issue is that it's not called like that every time. If it was, there wouldn't be a problem, because that is
what he wouldn't even be frustrated.
Yeah, he wouldn't even be frustrated because he would know that he broke a rule. But when guys like Joel Embiid are like, when they freak out on an official after a call and they don't get a tech, it's like, what's going on? Like, where's the consistency in how things are being called? And I think that's what the biggest problem is, because if guys knew this is the line of what I can and cannot do, it wouldn't be a problem. There would be no question about what is a good call and what is a bad call.
Yeah, for sure. This is just the hypothetical, obviously, that I'm about to bring up to you. And I know we didn't talk about this before the show, so I'm kind of putting you on the spot here. But if referees in the future could be machines, technology, they make perfect calls. They have a set of rules, and there's an algorithm where every single call is made perfectly. Would you like that? Or is a part of you more interested in humans officiating and there being that part of human error?
No, you know? I don't want, like, I think like replays and stuff is fine, but I don't want robotic referees. I think there's something to be said for the rules being upheld. However, there's also just something like, I don't know like exactly what the word for it, if it's like romantic almost about about there needs to be human decisions in sports, because that's just the way that it's always been. And I'm a firm believer that even if something can be changed to work better, there are certain things that you don't just get rid of for the sake of efficiency. And I think human refs is one of those things. Like, it's the same way that I feel about like the NBA, like trying to like introduce like play-in tournaments and like different like series. I think all of that is just silly. I think there's a certain precedent of how things work that needs to be upheld. And I think you need to fix things within that precedent, not just like automate officiating.
Yeah, once they automate the rest, what are they going to do next? Automate the players? Everyone's just going to be a robot?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Well, LeBron is already a robot. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that even though like humans do have flaws, obviously, I think it is the best way like to go in the future. I just think that using technology personally, I think, as you were saying, like maybe introducing more replays and introducing more technology to make the proper calls, as well as have, humans romanticized, it's all right. But yeah, I guess the main issue with introducing more technology is it slows down the game. You don't want to like be watching the game and the whole time they're just going over every single play.
And just like this is another minor complaint with reffing, and it's just like it's kind of just a byproduct of the game just evolving technologically, is in the last like 5 minutes of a game, when everything is just under constant like review and coaches challenging. It's like, I understand why it's necessary, but it's like, I'm just sitting there like, come on, like this should be the most exciting part of the game. And now
it's like half an hour of just commercials.
And now it's like half an hour long of like replay reviews in between ads.
Yeah, I know. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
Like it is what it is.
It is the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Do you have anything else to add, Kale?
I do not really have anything else to add. Just to kind of wrap it up, NBA officiating needs to be more consistent. There needs to be some sort of veto process on which NBA officials can be criticized, but don't be like Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert throwing Gatorade coolers and cursing people out in the media. It's not a good look. But anyways, thanks everybody for watching our episode of the basketball segment on Pump Take Sports, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Adios.